All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for jumping on. I wanted to post this quick video. I'm actually about to head out right now. I'm looking forward to seeing some family a little further up north for me. So I got to hit the road. I am certainly in my travel attire and no makeup, no hair, but I feel like I needed to get this recorded and get this posted before I leave on this trip because I'm going to be gone all weekend. And I think there's possibly people that may need to hear this and that it can bless. So I want to go ahead and just go ahead and record this, even though I'm not ready to fully uh, record. But I've thrown something together, and I think that it covers everything the Lord's been kind of speaking to me the last couple of days. And I had a really great comment from my last video. So what I'm going to try to do with this video is do a quick, brief upcap or a recap of what I'm going to talk about. The first, hopefully I can get it in like 10 minutes, and then I'll deep dive more into what I want to talk about in the rest of the video. And I need to get this all done in an hour. So I'm hoping this video is not going to be more than an hour, but I do tend to talk a lot. So apologies there. So let me just go ahead and start with my recap. So I pray that I'm actually sharing my screen properly. Um, let me, apologies. Yeah, I hope I'm sharing everything properly. So um, yeah, well, we'll see when the video comes out. I apologize. Um, all right, so let me go ahead and jump right into this so that we can get a nice overview of what I wanted to talk about. The quick highlights here before I go into the deep dive. So, over, I think, the next 4 years, we have really a unique opportunity to really build something, our Goshen, so to speak, so that we will be financially set and that our children's, essentially, our children's legacy and financial well being will also be sealed in these next 4 years for many of us. I do want to also. Um, mention that this video and I think this content is really meant for specific individuals. So I want to call those people out right now. I think it's truly meant for those people with certain anointings. One of them being the Joseph anointing, and the other being the Caleb anointing. So if you feel called, or if you feel that the Lord has placed you in one or either of these buckets of these two anointings, I do think that this video is for you. And if you are watching this video, I think that's for a reason. And yeah, I hope this video blesses you. So we can, I believe, in the next 4 years, create wealth in the form of assets and businesses, essentially, is where I feel the Lord is calling us as the body of Christ, and specifically for these two groups of individuals that fall under these two anointings. Um, and this wealth, I believe, has the ability really to last for generations, or at least, until Jesus comes back and he sets up his kingdom. To do this, you will need to learn how to steward money so that you will never be living in lack again. I think that's very, very important. There's many levels to this, including a mindset development and shift that will need to happen with individuals, and a learning. Part of the learning is the mindset, but certainly learning about money, how to steward it, how money works, how money can work for you, a lot of those things. I believe the wealth transfer will be um, heading into stages that are going to happen over several years, not just the next 4 years, but even beyond that. But as of right now, we are going to see the biggest part of the wealth transfer coming up, I think, starting this coming year, 2020, end of 2024, but certainly 2025, in my opinion, will be considered the beginnings of the great wealth transfer. And I think in 2025, possibly early 2026, we're going to see a Red Sea moment, and I'll explain that later. But I think it is important to mention this first to you so that you have a better idea and illustration of what I'm going to be talking about. So here in the image that I hope I am sharing with you on the screen is an illustration to really help you understand where I'm coming from and what I'm trying to share with you. So I know that Sharon from My Daily Bread, she has shared in one of her visions and dreams about a ladder to represent how the Lord plans to bless people with finances. Not everyone, I feel, is going to be called to buy every coin, and not everyone is going to have the financial means to buy every coin. And also, this is a global event. So people living in different countries um, may not legislative wise be able to buy certain coins. So I think that's why the Lord talks about so many different things. Um, Therefore, I think God is going to be blessing each of these coins that he prophesies about in stages. And this will allow for his children to use the profits from um, the coins that are coming in the earlier stages, like a seed money, the ones that he's going to spike in the markets at different times, and his children will be able to take profits and then pour into the other coins that are going to be worth a lot of money during the time of the new financial system and when that's fully brought online. And I do believe by 2030 that is going to be the time frame when this new financial system is going to be full steam ahead. Agenda 2030, has been very publicized, and they're very serious about what they're wanting to achieve in 2030 or by 2030. So I think that this is a date that is very realistic. I am of the belief that we have 5 years left to really prepare for that switch to be activated, and I think it's likely um, to see them initiate it even um, before that, before 2030, they're going to initiate everyone moving into this. But I think by 2030 and beyond, it's going to be a mandatory system you're going to be forced into. You're not really going to have a choice. The money you put in your bank, if you bank with Chase or whatever it is, you're going to be putting your money in and it's going to be represented as a digital asset. Um, Anyways, so I think we're becoming familiar and comfortable with this system before it's fully activated, I think is going to be important for God's people. So I do want to mention this also, a rule that I think is very important for people that are of God and are a part in planning and preparing for this wealth transfer. This is a warning for you. I I always say, don't talk about your sudden influx of wealth. It's important, and I've received this word too. Be silent, be smart, have your trusted circle of friends, have your trusted circle of people that you're going to be working with and whatever businesses or whatever things that you've been called to do and operate in. And this is really a need to know. So be preparing now for that. Um, I think you have to start thinking like a wealthy person now before everything starts going off, so to speak. So don't be ignorant, don't be foolish. Um, uh, Protect yourself, take precautions, and just be smart with whatever you're doing. So I have here kind of illustrated the same way Sharon kind of describes it as kind of a ladder. And I have the bucket image here kind of showing as it's like a pouring in, like God is going to be pouring in to certain assets, and we're going to see spikes in the market at different times. I do believe the first wave or waves that we're going to be seeing is going to be the seed money that a lot of his children are going to need to pour into other assets. They're going to also be very big. And some of those assets may be shorter term assets that you take profits from throughout the next couple of years. Some of those assets are going to be things that you want to hold on to long term. So I kind of have that illustrated here. So I am the belief, I think that it is very likely that we could see, even in November of December of this year, 2024, we could see Shiba hitting some really exciting numbers. It's had some great moves just in the last week, but I think it is likely we could see it at a 0.001. We could see it at a 1 cent. We could see it at a 10 cents. There have been a lot of people prophesying about it hitting the dollar. I don't know if that's going to happen this year, if it's going to be next year, but I do believe that it is going to happen. And I think it's going to be one of the first ones that will allow some really big seed money for people to take to start pouring into other things. And then I do think that Terra Luna Classic is one that will run up shortly after Shiba. Next, I think there's going to be some meme coins that we're going to see movement in. Um, I think meme coins like WikiCat, BNB Tiger, BNB Lion, um, these are all currently sitting in the green right now, but they're not really worth a whole lot. And I think that's for a purpose. They, I think these are ones that could make some incredible moves. But these coins also are more difficult to buy because they're not on the normal exchanges yet. It's still too early for them, so you have to be a little bit more tech savvy, and you need to teach yourself on how to get in and use these coins, how to use Pancake Swap, how to use MetaMask and linking your wallets, use DEX tools as part of the exchange. Like they're like looking up the actual address to pull the coin using Pancake Swap. It is a lot of different steps, and that was one of the reasons why I have been wanting to put together, tutorial videos and help people do these things, which is something that's still in the works. It's just a timing thing as of right now. Um, but the great thing about those coins is that you can secure them and right now save them into your Ledger Nano X wallet. So you can have them in a safe place. Um, let's see. And so my whole point here is that your stage one is your seed money, and that's what some of the first wave assets are going to be, and then they're going to be flowing. You'll be able to flow those profits in to your stage two assets where we're going to see some second waves and third waves, but certainly it's going to be huge financial acceleration. And I do believe we're going to see this happen in 2025. I think 2025 is going to be a big year for the markets. We're going to have a bull run up, and we're going to see some incredible moves. And I'll talk about in my deep dive some of the numbers that I think that we'll see. Um, but I even think we're going to see a second wave of Shiba Inu. We're going to see a lot of other assets moving up. I think XLM is going to be really good. XDC has been prophesied over, and this one is really, really cheap, easy to get into. It has its own wallet for you to store it in, I believe. So something to consider there. I know that Prophet Clement, he's based out of, I don't know if it's Uganda, but he's in Africa. He's spoken about this coin a lot. So this is something where there are certain countries and certain geographical people around the world that certain assets are going to be able, they're going to be able to utilize them. There are people all around the world where their finances are literally, they only have $1 sometimes, maybe $2 at most to really invest in some of these assets, but they're being faithful. They're building their storehouses and they're buying into these assets that are really cheap. And I believe God is going to bless them in a big way to provide them with the money that they're going to need to build the kingdom and to do what God needs to be done. I do think we're going to see a crypto flash crash. I don't know when that's going to be exactly as far as timing. I don't know if there's going to be a delay or if it's going to be around the time frame that I think it could happen, and I'll speak to that a little bit. But I do believe when these cyber attacks or flash crashes happen, new regulations are going to have to be adopted regarding cryptos. And I think when those new regulations start coming in, we're going to see a lot of coins disappearing and going away. But I think by that point, the the body of Christ will have made their seed money already, will have made the investments they needed and taken profits that they needed from these coins, and will have already been moved into another stage of assets and the assets that they need to be in for the long term. So that's just my 2 cents there. Um, and then I also think that there's going to be a lot of other investments that these profits need to be poured into that are not crypto. So these are things like precious metals. These are things like properties, land. rental properties, cash flow businesses, things like that. So these funds are to be used to help build the kingdom and to build kingdom businesses and to prepare for what's going on. I would be smart about any precious metals that you have. My personal opinion, I would keep this in your possession or keep it in a place that you have access to. It's secure, it's safe, but you have access to. It's not in an institution. I do not trust the banks. I would not trust the banks over the next 2 to 3 to 4 years. And I'll explain in the deep dive why I think that is. I also think it's important for you to be looking into um, a couple of other areas that I'll jump into more in detail in just a couple of minutes. But I think if you are led to buy land, if you are led to be in the area of food production or food growth, I would look into buying seeds and non-GMO seeds. These are seeds that are not genetically modified, seeds that can reproduce on their own, and just start storing up because you're going to need those. And I don't know in the future if there may be shortages on seeds or if there may be the enemy fighting back and limiting non-genetically modified seeds to people, farmers, stuff like that. So think about that. Um, and then you're going to need to have a trusted circle of people, and these are going to be people in areas that are they're professional trades people. That I'll just say that. So financial advisors, people that specialize in tax, lawyers, things like that. Um, and then depending on your level of wealth and you may want to be considering and looking into other areas of things at some point. It might not be now, but it's good to start thinking and strategizing of how you want to go about doing something like this. But considering security, you may be needing bodyguards. I mean, this is the level of wealth that I believe the kingdom is going to be moving into. um, we're going to be needing gardeners, cleaning staff, and possibly personal assistants. Because if you're going to be running and building businesses, you're going to need support. You're going to need to have help. You're going to need a number two. Um, one thing that the wealthy people do is they delegate and they delegate very well. They do not try to do everything on their own. For them, time is money, and they want to focus their time on money generating activities, but also enjoying their life. So it's not about being a workaholic and doing everything on your own. It's also about allowing other people that have skills to utilize those skills to benefit um, what you're doing. And you hire those people and you train them up and you bring them on board. So I think the other thing that some of the seed money needs to go into as we're heading in the next 4 years is stockpiling essential items, things that may be in shortage supply coming up in the next year or two or even couple of years. But these are things you want to look into. Supplies like water, non-perishable foods, toiletries, walkie-talkies, I think is going to be important and needed. Medical supplies, medical kits. Also, you might want to be training yourself as well as your kids on just basic emergency medical triage. How to do CPR, how to tie off a tourniquet or something. If somebody's bleeding. I think it's important. These are important skills that you should have as a believer. But just in general, important skills to have. So because we're going to see some natural disasters that are going to be coming. So you need to be prepared for that. These could come in the form of earthquakes, more hurricanes. How many hurricanes have we had that have been record level destruction? EMP attack is very likely, I'd say, in the next 5 years, maybe beyond that. Who knows? We'll see about the timing. But once we enter into stage three, I feel like stage three is going to be really about building your Goshen. So um, Goshen is going to be your land that you're going to have authority over your business, whatever you're building for the kingdom, whatever you're called to do. That is going to be your personal Goshen. So by this time, if you've not done it already, I it really should be your time to be safe to quit your day job. You're to focus on building your Goshen, and God is calling whatever God is calling you to do. You should no longer be the borrower, you should actually be the lender, and learn how to make your money work for you, and how to lend out your cryptocurrency using it as collateral, and you're just earning interest. That's something that you can do through some of these crypto coins, which is amazing. You're no longer to be an employee, you're to be an employer. So you're going to be employing people to work underneath your businesses that you're either buying or you're starting from scratch. You should continue during this time to stockpile supplies, like I mentioned. Um, because you're not necessarily stockpiling them for yourself. I think a lot of these supplies and things that the kingdom will be saving will be distributed and will be helping people in need, because there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be affected by the events that are happening over the next couple of years. They're going to need food. They're going to need toiletries. Women are going to need feminine products. There's just going to be a lot of things that there are going to be a lot of people in need and a lot of things that may not be easily purchasable. So I will say that. And then as far as stage four, I just want to mention this and reiterate it again. I don't trust the banks. There is going to be some type of, in my opinion, financial crisis that will cause a banking collapse. I think that it will be on a level greater than the Great Depression, and this will be something that will help usher in the new financial system that they're planning to bring forward. So, when that happens, I believe not just the US dollar, but multiple currencies, multiple fiat currencies that are not backed by anything, are going to fail. So I think we will see um, certain things happen in China, possibly their real estate market. We'll see the euro crash. And I think shortly after the euro crashes, I think we follow suit. Could be as soon as a week. After the euro crashes, the dollar is going to fail. I know that was something that was talked about by John Paul Jackson many years ago, it may be 10 plus years ago. Brandon from Last Days is also somebody who's talked about it. He said in his, I believe, his dream that he had, many people who were made millionaires by the Iraqi dinar revaluing will lose everything because they trusted the banks. They kept their cash in US dollars in the banks, and then the banks failed and the banks kept everything. So if you don't understand the insurance that these banks have, and this is if the government bails them out, um, if the insurance, the FDIC insurance, only covers up to 250,000 for one bank account per bank. So if you have $1 million or multiple millions of dollars in a bank account, all of that money is not insured. So please keep that in mind when these funds do come to you. If you are an investor in foreign currencies, then you need to be preparing your strategy now for when you cash that in. In my opinion, do not keep it in fiat currency. It is not backed by anything. It will fail. Um, you can invest these in many other assets, one of them being precious metals, another one being cryptocurrency. Um, if you do have it in cryptocurrency, keep it on a cold storage device and keep it in your possession. It might also be wise of you to have multiple cold storage devices. Don't just keep it all on one. But yeah, I'll that's I'll go deep dive into it a little bit more in just a minute. But um, stage five, I will say this is when the new financial system, I believe, is going to be in place. So, or uh, just up and running. You know, I think it's important as well, just because of the way that they're talking about smart cities and the surveillance technology that they're going to be using in these smart cities. I think we need to take a learning curve from what is already going on in China and their smart cities that they have there. Um, and the creepy thing is, I think they like their surveillance system or whatever they call it. I think they do call it Skynet, like it literally right out of the Terminator movie. It's really, really crazy. They dock people on their social credit score for jaywalking in these smart cities. So I think that's something that they're wanting to head into here in the States. I don't know how much movement that they'll get in this, or if it is something, yes, during the time of the beast system, these smart cities will be fully activated and um, the 15-minute cities, everything you need is going to be within 15 minutes of you if you live in these big cities. So it might be smart for you with when you're building your Goshen to find places and own land that are outside of these big cities. Um, so that's something you need to pray about. And if you're called to that, then by all means, uh, listen to the Lord. He's trying to tell you something. But when the new financial system is implemented, this will be digital assets, really. It's going to be digital of some kind. I think it's going to be a combination of cryptocurrency on blockchain or a combination of the digital assets on their own networks that will be able to speak and talk and work within the kind of current digital system that we have with Swift and everything like that. There's, if you really want to understand it, you got to do a lot of research and it's a lot of really boring reading. But the ISO 20022 is all about coins that are compatible to talk and work within that system. So that is what they're moving into. They want to bring that online, and I think Japan just made an announcement of some kind that I thought was really interesting regarding XRP. I took a screenshot of it just the other day, and I hope that this is accurate. I haven't had time to look into it, but it said Japan, every bank will adopt XRP by 2025, um, revolutionizing payments nationwide. So um, I haven't got a chance to look into this yet. I don't know how much truth there is into that or what the steps are that they're taking to be able to adopt it. But if you look at Ripple and the partnerships that they've been making just over the last couple of years, it's huge. That's why I have XRP literally at the bottom of my ladder. It's one of the it's like the main long-term asset that you really want to be holding on to, in my opinion. Um, and this is me and my financial roadmap. XRP is my long-term hold. Flare, I think, is another FLR is the trading code. I think Spark is the token or coin that it's talked about. Um, but Flare is another network that I think is going to be incredibly valuable and also could almost be like a bridging mechanism between XRP and other utility tokens. So I know that Prophet Kim Clement, sorry, that's a mouthful. He talked about seeing something like a fire or something in regards to technology. So I almost feel like the Flare network may have been what he was seeing or what he was being shown, and he just didn't have the words to talk about it or to express it because the Flare um, symbol really is a flame. So that's kind of interesting. I think that's going to be a very valuable coin in the future to hold on to long term as well. So that's my, in a nutshell, that's what I wanted to talk about as a snapshot. And now going to deep dive into this. So hopefully I did that in a short period of time so that those people that wanted to tune in for a quick recap can. But now I do want to deep dive into it. And um, I was praying to the Lord about a couple of things, and then when I was reading through, or I don't know if I was reading through comments on a last video, or if actually um, I may have been. Oh yeah, I was reading through the comments on my last video, and then as I was reading through, this one comment caught me, and the Lord kind of spoke to me about it, and so I wrote this whole thing about it, and I wanted to read a little bit of it. because I do think that this is important, and this is something that I do want to share. Um, so how do I want to say this? Okay, well, I'll just read some of this first, and then I'll go into the other thing that I wanted to say. Um, Sorry, I just had a thought I want to write down so I don't forget. Be thankful for the delay in the wealth transfer. Um, I I think this is something that a lot of people, I know they're tired, I know they're frustrated, I know um, it's been a long time, and there have been a lot of words that have not um, necessarily come to pass in the time frames that were spoken. So, um, I am thankful for the delay in the wealth transfer. I honestly thought it was going to happen a lot sooner than this. I thought we were going to see something happening in the beginning Q1 of 2024. It has allowed time to build the right mindset. For me personally, that is true, 100%. Um, it has allowed time to prepare financially for what is coming. If you're part of this wealth transfer, um, not all of us have a lot of funds to be putting into this. So every other week, every time you get paid, people that have been faithful and consistent with this have just been putting a little bit more, a little bit more. And that little bit can be just $5, $10 a week. Maybe it's a little more for you depending on where you are financially, but um, that is a blessing in itself. It's allowed time for you to be positioned where you need to be for the first stage and in the right assets that the Lord's called you to be in. Um, for more of my Josephs to come forward and participate. This was something the Lord spoke to me. This is something I think we as a body we need to be thankful for, because there are there are people that are coming late to this game, okay, so to speak. There are people that have been early. They've been in this for 10 plus years. They've been waiting, they've been faithful. But not everybody comes into this at the same time. They're being awakened at different times. And this delay has allowed for more of those people that have a Joseph or Caleb anointing to come in and be a part of what's about to happen, which is so amazing. The delay has allowed for grace for those who are not listening and who are not in a good place with me. Well, the Lord. I'm just writing down what I heard when I was writing in my journal. Um, he desires that no man should perish, but that all would be saved. But eventually the door must be shut and judgment will come quickly. Um, Upon those people who are not ready who are not ready and who are not watchful. I do apologize. I wrote this very quickly, so reading my own handwriting isn't really the best. Um, okay, so I wrote this. The Lord is reminding me that He speaks words deliberately. Sometimes He states now or soon, or even mentions specific dates because He wants to move His children to action. He needs them to act now and do something now and prepare now. This is big. This was the big thing that came out of when I was writing about that. It's in humans' nature to procrastinate and to put things off. Unfortunately, I do that. I'm guilty of that. Um, I wrote that here. I'm guilty of this. So, and I don't want to do this. It's something I need to work on here. So, if God was to say to his prophets, um, that, this is all going to happen, but not for 4 years, not for 5 years, etc. What would you do if you're listening to a word that says 4 years from now, 5 years from now, I'm going to bless you huge way financially in these assets? Would you buy them today? Would you start buying them today? If you're struggling, to pay your bills or afford food right now, would you want to put aside that $5 a week or $10 a week to buy assets that aren't going to profit you anything for 5 years? Be honest with yourself. I don't think you would. There are a lot of people that are focusing on the now and they're not necessarily thinking about 5 years from now. But if the Lord tells you, hey, this is going to happen soon, you don't know what the soon is, there is going to be more urgency in your spirit to start getting ready and to start putting aside a little bit of money consistently to buy certain assets. And I think that's why he talks the way he does to his children, because we are children. I mean, we may be adults, but sometimes the way we behave and the way we think and the way we receive things is like children. Um, so Um, yeah, I wrote here, what would you do? Probably, probably nothing because it's not relevant or urgent for you immediately, for your immediate future. You would probably think, oh, I still have some time to buy that before it explodes. A lot of you may even forget that he spoke that at all. Um, but the Lord has been speaking about these cryptos for years for a purpose and with urgency for a purpose. I believe that that urgency is to allow his children time to accumulate them. So the amazing thing about savings is if you do it consistently, if you're putting in even a little bit, $1, $2, $5, but you're doing it consistently and you're not touching it, you're setting aside, you're not looking at it, you're not breaking into that piggy bank every time there's a crisis, but you're allowing it to grow over time, it becomes something significant. And then the Lord can multiply it, like he did with the oil for the lady that had nothing, right? She had like one jar of oil at home. She was about to eat her meal and then go and die because that was the last meal that she had, but Jesus blessed it. Um, so, so it'll allow you time to accumulate quantities of each of these assets, or maybe just a couple of the assets, maybe just one asset, depending on your financial situation. Some of you some of you listening are on fixed budgets and don't have much to spare at the end of each month. So this is what I was writing and what I was hearing. I know I've been there. So me personally, I've been there. It's not easy. It's really hard. Um, okay, that's just something personal that the Lord had kind of spoken to me. Um, so I know for me, this is where I was kind of writing down that um, the Lord has been really speaking to me and opening my mindset to crypto in a sense 2020. So it's soon to be 5 years. The first time that I had heard about crypto or Bitcoin was around 2010, 2011. My mindset was completely shut off. I wouldn't even hear about it. Um, yeah, I think I've already spoken about that, so I don't need to speak to it again. And so I've been obedient with every little bit that I could. I would buy crypto and set it aside, not touch it. I've been faithful in this, as I believe many of his children have been. Um, be grateful for the delay. That's what I heard. And I explanation marked that. Um, this was really beautiful. He spoke to me. You are a single thread in a beautiful tapestry he is weaving right now, a tapestry of many colors. For where you are as a single thread, I have it in uh, brackets, you cannot see the bigger picture that he is weaving or that you are even part of. You won't be able to see the end result from your perspective here on earth right now. But God does have a purpose. He is the way, the truth, and the light. None come to the Father but by me, Jesus. Testimony. Um, I do just want to share this. that, because I wrote this, what date did I write this? November 12th, 2024. That's when I heard this word and I wrote it down. A testimony to the delay in the wealth transfer and him waiting and allowing time into this. That the day before I wrote this, um, I was able to actually get my sister set up on an exchange with her crypto, and her sell and buy limit orders set. I have been praying for this for years. Um, I've been trying to get her on an exchange, and it's just one thing after another. It hasn't worked out, or we were experiencing difficulties, or the verification of the account wasn't working, or she just didn't have time, or she wasn't interested. Telling you the whole I'm not interested period, that took a number of years because I've been talking about crypto since 2020. So it now nearly being 5 years later, this is a testament right here. This is a testimony. Um, so and the other amazing thing is I've actually this year for the first time been praying with her. Like she's allowed me to pray with her. We were both raised agnostic. My, atheist. I came to Christ at a young age. I was about 12 years old, but for my sister, it's just now this year that she started accepting that there could be a God or that there is a God. So this is amazing stuff. Um, Let me see. I think that's it. I think that's all that I wanted to say to this effect, really. Um, the only other thing that I wanted to speak to about was a comment that was on my last video. People that said about Shiba hitting $1, and yeah, that'll be great, but I don't really have money right now. That is a mindset. That's something that you need to develop, recognize in yourself, and work on. Because even if you just have $1, even if you just have $5, that little increment of money can make a huge difference in a number of these assets that I've mentioned. So there really is no excuse. You could go pick up change on the road, to be honest, to give you money to um, invest in these coins. You can recycle cans and bottles. You can deep dive into your own personal finances and find an extra $2 or $5 a month. I'm telling you right now, and you know it's true, you can do it. There are things that we take for granted, and as Americans, we buy every day, that we could go without. Go on a fast. Have a weekly fast where you're intermediately fasting. Cut out certain things out of your diet. Sugar, I know sugar's a big one for me, and sugar is a big one for a lot of people. Don't buy any sweets for that a week. Start with a week, just a couple of days. Um, Look at it from like a weekly perspective. What can I cut out of my budget that I can rather put that money towards my crypto investments? A cup of coffee. Um, how many people go to Starbucks every single day? Some of you more than once a day. So you want to cut down on $5 right there investment? That's a cup of coffee, or your specialty coffees that you get, frappuccinos or whatever. There's just so much. There's so much that you really could do to cut down and literally divert those funds into something that could benefit you in a huge way. So this is something I wanted to speak to. I'm going into my deeper dive now, so I'm just forewarning you. I'm almost done with my first book that I'm writing. It's on the wealth transfer. This is something that I feel led to write about, and um, it was something that I started in 2020. This is something that it was confirmed through me, through the friend that I mentioned in my last video, Heather. Something that the Lord wants me to write. Um, so I really just started it as more as notes and research for myself because I wanted to learn about this stuff, and I needed to organize it in a way that I could understand and um, that is how my brain works personally, and that's how I'm able to keep and retain knowledge. Um, I did not yet understand that God was actually leading me down a path to publishing something that could help other people. And instead, I kept thinking how, oh, it would be great if somebody, would write a book on this topic. So it would be easy for someone, like me. I would rather go out and just buy a book that's already readily available, to kind of work through this or have a workbook or something like that. But I couldn't find anything that had all the information that I was really looking for. Um, so it's really funny how God will lead you down a path of thinking like this and then reveal how he actually wants you to be the one to create this thing that you are wanting, or asking for. And it's to help other people. It's to help his body. So I really find that, that's a beautiful thing. So this was a project that I talked about in my previous video, that was released. And um, so I just wanted to share, you can kind of see the cover here and the writing and everything. I created this image through, like an AI photo generator thing, which was really neat because I've been kind of looking into that a lot lately. I'm fascinated, but also terrified by AI and the way things are heading, but it does have its uses. Um, anyways, so before I get into what I really want to share, I believe many of God's children has been kept hidden for this season that we're going into. He has protected you. He has prepared you for where you're headed. He has had to prepare your hearts. The Joseph calling is a unique calling, and it requires a very unique and special servant to really hold that position. I do believe that. This is a person that has been able to withstand many hardships and trials in their life. Um, Most likely, this is stuff that is started in your childhood, your very young childhood. And these are people that have experienced loss and betrayal, and yes, even by family and people closest to them. Maybe even these people have experienced homelessness on some levels. They've experienced hunger. They've experienced bankruptcy. They've experienced divorce. Um, I think all of these trials and all of these things have really, made these people very unique, and it has strengthened them and prepared them for the times that we're heading into. Me personally, it's created a very humbling effect, I feel like, in my heart. But because I am a very caring person, like if someone else is in pain, I'm in pain, like it hurts me, I feel that. Um, I think it allows you to be very empathetic to the struggles of other people and where they are and what they're going through. So, if you're called to be a Joseph during this time, you need to prepare your heart because not everyone can go with you where you're headed. You need to understand that there may be people in your immediate circle that will sabotage you and what God really needs from you in order to build the kingdom of God on this earth and the Goshens that he needs built during the times that are coming. These people, that maybe end up being removed either by God or, I mean, through means, they'll just be removed from your immediate circle. These people may portray you, um, and that's why they have either already been removed from your life or are in the process of removal or will be removed from your life in the future. So really be praying into this. Pray for understanding and acceptance in this as well. It will be a difficult process to go through, but it is a very necessary process. Do not hold on to the old, but allow God to do what he needs to do. These people have held you back for too long, but there isn't time for that any longer, and you can't take them with you. For me, the biggest change that I've had in recent years since 2020 was my divorce. It was not a kingdom marriage, and I believe it was God's will for him to be removed from my life. And the past 2 years, even though it started out very difficult, has been some of the happiest times of my life. And the Lord has blessed me in such a huge way, not just personally, but also in my career. So that's been really amazing to see. I do want to add that you need to remember you are kings and queens, and that you are to be, uh, you are to represent God on this earth. If the world cannot differentiate you from the world, then you, my friend, are in danger. If you're living like the world and not living for God, you need to really look inward and evaluate your heart and what you're doing here, because you're deceiving yourself, and that's a very dangerous place to be. We do have a lot of babies, spiritual babies in the church right now. They've been drinking milk for way too long, and they have not matured to adulthood, or they're not at a place in their spiritual walk with God that they're able to eat meat. That's what it talks about in the Bible. It does a comparison to babies that drink milk and adults who are able to chew and eat meat. So we need more adults that are spiritually mature. Um, and we need there's just too many spiritual babies, let's be honest. And there are a lot of people that have been in that place as a baby for years. So it's really time to level up. It's really time to take responsibility for your spiritual walk, and not to remain stagnant where you're at. I will state that the book, these are just some of the key points that I'm going to be talking about in my first book. It's going to talk about the 7 key fundamentals about mindset and investing and what you really need to know when entering into this wealth transfer. I'll talk about the 2 different mindsets that I feel are very prominent right now. It's a now mindset versus a future mindset, and I describe in my book what those are, what that means. I also talk about having the mindset of a millionaire. That's something you need to develop in yourself and have ready when moving into this wealth transfer. I talk about knowledge, wisdom, and discernment, how those 3 need to work together, and how you need to be perfectly positioned in the center of those 3 things. I do talk about strategies for accumulating cryptocurrency. There are things that you can do. You may feel like you have no money, you may feel like you're powerless, but there are strategies and things you can do to accumulate crypto when you have very little to nothing. And then building your investment roadmap. I'm going to give you a snapshot here in a second of what I'll be talking about in my book, and then kind of where I feel that we're headed. And mind you, this investment roadmap isn't a thus says the Lord. And yes, this is something that I put together from my own perspective of where I think we're headed. Some of it is based on prophetic words that have been spoken. Some of this is just me hypothesizing. Um, I've added in some things where, yeah, I feel the Lord has led me in words He's given me. But again, this is for informational purposes only, and you need to pray into each of these things before investing or making changes yourself. You have to be responsible for you. It's plain and simple. And then also know that success is not money, in my opinion. Success is living your best life. So, yes, money does allow you to live a better life. Let's be honest. You can't really live without money in this world as we live right now. You have to have money to get by. But don't measure your success by the number in your bank account or the value of your crypto bank, so to speak. The other thing, I I was listening to a word, and I do want to write a chapter more on this in my book, because I talk about this a little bit, but in my book, but I think I want to write a deeper chapter, um, differentiating between a rich man versus a wealthy man. Because I was listening to a video and they were talking about a comment somebody made about, um, it's easier for a rich man to go through the eye of a needle than for them to enter into heaven. So um, that, and then I kind of received this download of that, um, of kind of how I do see that, but I also saw a different side. Like the Lord showed me a different side to this as well. The distinction here is that he says a rich man, not a wealthy man. A rich man represents a mindset. A wealthy man also represents a different mindset. You need to get your mindset right before you receive your wealth transfer. Possibly another reason for the delay. The Lord confirmed this to me this morning when I was watching a video. He spoke to me explaining this key difference that is being missed in this Bible verse. Having money is not bad. It is the mindset and the condition of your heart that leads to corruption. Need to be right with the Lord and need to be right in your mindset. Otherwise, money can corrupt you and destroy you. So that was just the word that he spoke to me when I was just listening to this video the other morning while I was doing my makeup for work. Um, I will write more on that and I will have it in my book, but I just felt like I wanted to get that out to you guys. So make sure you have your heart posture right when you're heading into this. Um, Rich people do tend to like it's a different mindset, right? Um, rich people will you'll kind of notice rich people versus wealthy people, and I kind of delineate a little bit visually how you can see the difference between the two. Celebrities are rich people. Um, Wealthy people don't necessarily flaunt their riches in the same way that rich people do. As you can see, a lot of rich people, celebrities, they'll have jewels and jewelry and they'll be godded out to the hilt. I mean, the rings, the hair, the clothing, it's all about showing off their riches, their money, and where you'll see a lot of wealthy people. Sometimes, if they were to be walking around on the streets, you wouldn't really be able to differentiate them from the normal, everyday working blue collar person. Um, they don't feel the need, they don't feel the draw to have to flaunt their wealth in that way. They're secure in themselves and in their mindset and in their money. And a lot of times wealthy people, they don't like to waste their money on those types of things. It's not what's important to them. They would rather have their money in other things that's making them money and continuing to build their assets. They steward their money differently. I'll just say that. So I do talk about this in my book, and I do want to talk about this a little bit further in there. So I'm probably going to write another chapter about this specifically, but I do feel that it's a mindset thing. Okay, and I'm already over on time at how long I wanted to do this video, so I don't know how much of this I'm going to talk to, but I do want to say just a couple of things. This is my investment roadmap that I kind of wanted to share and kind of where I see things and what they could potentially fall and hit within certain years over the next 4 years. And I'll just speak to it a little. And I understand I don't have all these boxes filled out. It's a very fluid thing and moving. And no, I don't have a crystal ball. So it's not like I'm just trying to say, hey, this isn't going to happen till then. I'm just saying this is when I think it's likely to happen, and I'll tell you why. So this is just my deep dive and how um, I understand that there needs to be a lot of work done here. So bear with me and do forgive some of the crudeness in this presentation, but I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done by the body of Christ to really help shift their mindset so that um, they can prepare for what God is about to do. And really, that was the point of this video and me wanting to share this with you. It is like a part two to my previous video that I've done. I will spend several chapters in my book specifically talking about this. So let's start with 2024 and where we're at right now. I'm recording this video. Today is November 15th, 2024. It's a Friday. Happy Friday, everybody. I'm sorry, I should have probably said that earlier. Um, I feel like we are in a very unique season right now. We are in a preseason getting ready for January, February, March of next year, when we're going to be seeing some really incredible increase coming. I truly believe that. I think 2025, and I have it listed here, I believe this is going to be the beginning of what we consider the wealth transfer. Those who are planting seeds right now in November and December, and have been planting seeds, mind you, for the last months or several years leading up to this, are going to be able to reap the harvest for what is coming. A pastor, he goes by the name, and this is his YouTube name, so I don't know if this is his real name, Joe Dawson. He said in a recent post this week that he received a word from a prophet that he knows saying that 2025 will be the greatest financial year of increase in this whole decade. And I personally want to add that it will be for those who have prepared. Um, those who have not planted seeds in this current season will not flourish in the same way that others will in 2025. And you have to, and I'm going to stop for a second. You have to think of this in a sense of planting and farming, right? If you've got two farmers, one farmer has spent time to plant seeds in the ground, the other farmer hasn't planted any seeds yet. He got delayed, something was going on, or he just wasn't paying attention. Um, when the season comes, the crops have grown. One farmer doesn't have any seed in the ground. He didn't have any crops grow. When harvest season comes, he's not going to have anything to harvest. So this is kind of what I'm saying. That's the illustration that I'm wanting to give. Um, and that's okay. Let me just state that for this moment, for this stage one in the beginning of what's going on with 2025. That's okay. The body of Christ, not everybody needs to be benefiting from what's about to happen in 2025. Like I said, there are certain people that have been prepared for this season. They will be blessed for this season, but there are going to be other seasons that are coming where different people in the body of Christ are going to be joining in that, and they will be blessed in those seasons. So I'm not, this isn't to shoot down anyone that has not prepared yet. So if you're someone that's just coming on board and you're just hearing about this for the first time, don't feel bad. Don't feel like you've missed out because you're being brought in. You're right on time for you personally. You're right on time and you just need to be obedient to where God's leading you. So don't feel like you've missed out yet because even if you're listening to this video and it's 2 or 3 years from now, you're right on time for you. There's still time for you. So don't lose hope and don't feel like you've missed out. Um, so let me get back to where I was. I have some notes I want to follow so that I can try to hurry through this and say what I got to say. Um, there will be people joining later to this wealth transfer party, and they will have different stages to benefit from. So yes, that's exactly what I just said. But I believe it is the people that have the Joseph's anointing and the Caleb anointing that will benefit greatly in 2025. These two anointings are incredibly important during this time. The Joseph anointing, just to describe a little bit about that anointing, these are dreamers, these are seers, these are prophets, these are leaders. Joseph was a leader. He was the second in charge of Egypt. Um, he was a steward. Um, he was a shepherd. Um, they will be given unique instructions on how to prepare for the things that will be coming upon the land. They will become among the wealthiest individuals in their land, having power, influence, and authority. Joseph had incredible power, wisdom, and authority. He was second to Pharaoh. He was raised up from literally prison to being the second in command of all of Egypt. And that happened within a day. So, those types of things is what we're going to see happen in 2025. The Lord has been preparing these Joseph anointed people. And then when this transfer comes, it's going to be like within a day, there's going to be a change. The influx of wealth and you are going to be given authority and power to move forward and do the things God's called you to do. Um, they will be among those responsible for saving the nation during times of incredible hardship that's going to be coming. The Caleb anointing is a little bit different. Caleb was a leader of the tribe of Judah and one of the 12 spies that Moses sent out to scout the land of Israel. Um, and he was one of two spies that actually gave a good report on the land. So that's important because out of those 12 people, there were only two people that had the mindset of God, that had the mindset, a future mindset. He was positively thinking, we have God. Of course we can do this. Of course we can take the land. Have you seen this land? Have you seen much potential is there? It's flowing with milk and honey. Yeah, there might be a couple giants down there, but take those guys out. That's not a problem. He was in the right mindset when it came to the point in time for them to take the land, to take back their land. So that's really important. Um, Caleb was known for his bravery. He was known for his piety, but above all, loyalty. He was loyal to God. He was loyal to God. He encouraged the Israelites to trust in God and conquer the land despite the giants that lived there. Who are the giants of our day? I'm sorry to tell you, but yes, there are giants that live in our land. And I think if you were to think about it from a spiritual perspective, you would understand better the giants that are in our land. Um, these are the people that are in power, places of power, influence, and authority right now that have a lot of money, that help to make a lot of decisions that are not in the best interest of the people. These are the giants that we need to conquer. And we need to have the confidence that the Lord has our back and that we're going to be successful in taking back our land and building the kingdom of God in these areas in all seven mountains of influence. Um, for his faith, Caleb was rewarded with a place in the promised land when the Israelites finally did enter in. Um, and I believe these people with Caleb anointing will be conquerors. They will become business owners, landowners, inventors, entrepreneurs. They will also be people that will enter into places of authority to help lead the land in places like political office, school boards, government, judicial, legislative, and administrative parts of our government. So if you fall on any of those anointings, God bless you. I hope that God blesses you, protects you, and keeps you. And I'm excited to see you in the future and see you on the front lines. Um, so stage one here, I believe that the seed money, it is very possible we could see that begin this month of November or even in December. Whether we see Shiba do a hit or spike up, like I said, to 0.001 or a cent or 10 cent or even, God, please, a dollar, that would be amazing. There are people that have received words of Shiba Inu hitting a dollar, um, and around Christmas. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I think Shiba is going to do something special. And I do think that it is going to be one of the first coins to make some big moves. Shortly after Shiba, like I said, I think we're going to see Terra Luna Classic run up, um, followed possibly by some other meme coins that could happen. So, but again, um, always in the back of my mind, I, I don't necessarily trust banks. So, in preparation of that, I would say don't put more into your bank account than what's insured by the FDIC. So that's like $250,000 per bank account per bank. Unless you're, going to be making some big purchases and it needs to be in cash, like if you're buying some land or whatever that is. But I do think we're going to see some seed money coming in, and I think that 2025 is going to be a big year of profit. Um, I think it's going to be the year that is going to be a huge bull run. So whatever profits, I receive in this stage of money for my seed money, I'll be using this in a number of different ways. First, I want to invest that in XRP. I truly think this is a long-term asset, certainly for me, that I want to stay in. It's something that I want that to be my, one of my largest holdings, and obviously stored safely, not necessarily on exchanges, but in some type of a cold storage device. My personal preference is I really like Ledger Nano X, but there are a lot of other great wallets out there. So do your own research and what you decide to do with that. The other thing with the seed money, I'll be setting, buy limit orders for um, Shiba and Bitcoin and a couple other coins that I feel when we do have a drop in the market, we could hit lows. So once Shiba spikes up, I'm going to set buy limit orders for it to drop back down because it's been prophesied that Shiba is going to have two waves, at least two waves. I think certainly over the next 5 years, we could see it do three, maybe even more, because there are people that have had dreams of Shiba Inu hitting $18, $48. Like it's gotten pretty high up there. And certainly those numbers for Shiba may not happen until after 2030, but you know, it's something to look at. Um, I also am I don't know when the flash crash is going to happen for crypto, but it's certainly worth being prepared for and having buy limit orders for like Bitcoin or Ethereum and any other ISO 20022 coin. These are coins that are they're compatible with the messaging system and regulations that will be kept and utilized when the new financial system is up and running. So those are all coins that you're probably going to want to hold on to long term. XLM, I think this coin is going to be blessed in a huge way, just like XRP. I kind of feel like it's the sister coin to XRP, but it's easy to transact in and really cheap and inexpensive to transact in. Whenever I have to send money to people, or I donate to a ministry that accepts crypto, I always send it in LXM because it's cheap, it's fast, it gets there in seconds, and it barely costs anything to send it. I don't like to send money on anything regarding the Ethereum network because it costs so much money. Like if I'm only sending a little bit of money, $50, $100, I don't want to spend $6 or $15 sending that money. Do you know what I mean? I'd rather send 0.000 of a cent sending that money than or a very cheap and expect a cheap amount having to send it then yeah, so I try not to send things using Ethereum, but I do think that Ethereum, Bitcoin, obviously these are um, among the first coins. They're going to be blessed. They're going to rise in value. They're going to make a lot of money. But for me, I'm more practical in the coins I like to be in because I think about their utility, their cost effective, and the speed of sending things out. So um, XLM is certainly on there. Flare, like I talked about, for me, this is a long-term hold. XDC. XDC has been talked about by God. I think that it's going to be used in a big way to bless people in Africa, but it's very inexpensive to buy it. So if you're here, if you're an American citizen or wherever you're listening in from, and you don't have a lot of money to be buying or investing into coins, pray into XDC. This could be a coin for you that is going to be blessed in a big way, and that could help provide you the seed money you need to invest in some of these other big coins. Um, well, coins that will be big in the future. Sorry. Um, Paying off debts. I think this is so very important. We need to pay off debts with a lot of the seed money as quickly as possible. Credit cards, student loans, cars, houses, whatever, you know, whatever debts that you have, just to make it easier for you for things that may be coming in the future. Because there may be a time in the future where um, things things may be difficult. Um, and what I mean by that is when this financial crisis happens, there may be a time in the market when, yes, the currency, the fiat currency, the US dollar, the euro dollar, they've all crashed. They're not worth anything. Um, the crypto markets may all crash and dump at the exact same time. So your crypto is also not really worth anything. Um, Gold and silver, yes, are probably going to be worth a lot of money during that time, but it's going to be like a bartering situation because I mean you'll be trading your money for cash, but it's just think strategically about some of these things and how they might play out for short time periods. So prepare for, like I said, the crypto flash crash. So have some buy limit orders set and just sitting there waiting in your exchanges. I personally really like to use Coinbase, and right now I'm on Kraken as well because um, several of the other exchanges that I had been using um, with regulations and everything of how things are going, I can't use them anymore. Like KuCoin, I loved using KuCoin, but now as a US citizen, I can't use it anymore. And they've locked me out. But I thankfully have already gotten my assets off there. But so depending on where you're at, you need to find an exchange that is right for you. So do your research on that. Um, so regardless, if we do or we don't see things happen in November or December of this year, those people, I believe, with the Joseph and Caleb anointings, um, need to really be preparing for the harvest now. You need to be planting your seeds, have your orders set, and just be ready for what's about to go on and what's about to happen. So the other thing I do want to talk about, so I have another thing. I talked about crypto, stock market. I think Zion Oil is going to hit. Manuel Johnson talked about this. Um, I think Jerusalem is going to find oil, and gas and oil. They're going to find stuff there, and that's going to bless them in a huge way. I think that multiple oil companies within um, Israel are going to be blessed, and Zion Oil is one of them. So look into that. Uh, I set up just a simple E-Trade account where I can buy stocks on my own without going through and having to pay a broker. So that might be something that you want to look into. And it's certainly because I think when you deal with a broker, they won't even talk to you unless you're willing to spend at least $10,000 or more investing. So if you've only got, $50, $100, a couple $100, you got to go about buying your stocks on your own and in your own way. And there's a lot of different um, platforms I think you can go through, but for me, I like E-Trade. It was easy to use, so that might be something you want to look into. There are a number of other things you might want to consider. Um, ChargePoint, Chevron Oil, Texaco Oil, Shell Oil, uh, Tesla stock. This is something I can't remember where, if I read this or if it was in a post by someone, but I think there is going to be a new non-electric car to come out by Tesla, which could certainly help pump their stock. Because I mean, there are two camps, right? There are people that are gung ho about electric cars, and then there's the other side. So I'm on the other side, but that's just me personally. Hopefully you guys don't judge that too harshly, but I personally think that uh, I don't need to share that here, but I think these batteries and everything are literally more toxic to the environment than gasoline. So that's just me personally. I know that North Carolina is dealing pretty heavily right now with a lot of the contamination. And I think from the lithium mining that they've been doing over there, they literally have some of the recovery people that are in there drudging through, you know, water trying to help and recover and save people. Their clothes is melting off of them. It's whatever the lithium battery acid, whatever it is that's in, it's seeped into the environment, seeped into the water, it's contaminated the area, it's melting their shoes. So I pray we need to be praying for these people because the health side effects for these people that are volunteering their time to help in the recoveries. We don't know what the short-term or long-term effects of what they've been dealing with. So certainly be praying for these people, because that's pretty scary. Uh, I will say this too. Gold and silver and precious metals are going to be a huge safe haven for your wealth, and they are going to be blessed in a big way. So your seed money, I think a portion of your seed money and throughout the next year, be investing in these assets and think about security and where you want to put it. Gold, silver, of course, these things are going to go way, way up. Silver, for one, we use in everything regarding electronics. So think about that. There's going to be very limited supply and it's going to be worth a lot of money. Copper, I think, might be a big surprise to some people. But copper is used in a lot of things, industrial wise and plumbing, and it's a needed um, it's a needed metal. It's important. And I think we will see this rise. So people that invest in copper, it's pretty cheap. You can get that pretty reasonably. We made our pennies out of them. So for anyone that just throws their change in a jar and just saves it and holds on to it, you might want to look back through your jar of coins and see if you can find any pennies that were made, I think, before what, 1975 or 1970 or something like that, because the percentage of copper that's in those coins can make them incredibly valuable. Hold on to those. I found it very interesting in 2020 that we went through the coin shortage. They were literally trying to round up as much coinage as they could, and then they were swapping out, oh, here's new pennies. They weigh hardly nothing. I don't know what they're made out of exactly, but I guarantee you it's not a lot of precious metals that are going to be worth much in the future. Oh, apologies. Oh, what happened? I'm so sorry. You guys are seeing my screen backdrop. I just accidentally jumped out of what I was sharing. Okay. Um, So foreign currency, this is another thing that I think we are going to see blessed. And for those of you that think that foreign currency is a hype, I will remind you the Iraqi dinar has revalued once already in the 80s. And yes, it revalued to around $3 and it made millionaires during that time. So just saying, I think this is something that is going to happen again, not just for the Iraqi dinar, but I think the Vietnamese dong, the Uganda shilling has been prophesied over. So I will just mention it here shortly. One Iraqi dinar right now is worth like 0.007 and some numbers of a US dollar. So what that means is one US dollar, you can get around 13,106 Iraqi dinar, depending on where you go as far as like an exchange to purchase it. Vietnamese dong is also really cheap to buy. I think it's worth like 0.000039 US dollars. So you can get with one US dollar around 25,361 Vietnamese dong. And the Uganda shilling, for one US dollar, you can get, I think it's 3,675 Uganda shilling. Yeah, I think that math's right. Um, I know with some prophetic words that have been spoken, I think the Iraqi dinar is likely to revalue around $3 again. Um, the Vietnamese dong may not be as much. It may revalue around $1, maybe 50 cents a dollar up to, I think, the max $1.80, something in there. That's just my personal opinion. The Uganda shilling, I have no idea what this could revalue to be honest. But I think Uganda, they may find gold in their land, something that is going to um, help them to revalue their currency, maybe even back it by gold, and that's the reason why their currency will be worth a lot more in the future. Um, so This is something else to consider for those of you that have the financial means. Consider foreign currency. Um, I know that there have been a number of prophets that have talked about the timing of when that'll revalue, and I'll share that in a minute. But land is also going to be another safe haven for your wealth. I think that land obviously is incredibly useful, but I think that we're going to be reverting back into growing our own food and growing it holistically in the future. So it would be a really wise investment to invest in land. And even if you're not going to farm the land yourself, you can lease your land for someone else to farm it. And then there's profit in that for you. But certainly, land is something that I think many of us should be investing in 2025. Also, businesses, and I think I would be very smart to invest in cash flow businesses that will do well and will be needed during future lockdown periods or future natural disasters that may be coming. So if you personally haven't you don't really know what kind of a business you want to start or what kind of businesses you would like to invest in, but you know you want to invest in businesses, not necessarily having to run them yourselves, but just invest in these businesses. Um, like purchasing the business, like or starting the business yourself, whatever it may be. These are certainly areas that I think the Lord is calling people to going into. I think that the way FEMA has been operating right now, um, and a disclaimer on this because I am mentioning FEMA. This is for entertainment purposes only, and this is of my personal opinion. I think there's been a lot of corruption there. And I don't know exactly what all's been happening under the guise of FEMA, but I don't think it's entirely up to board. And I think that there are organizations and businesses that will be built that could replace FEMA in the future to go into these areas where a natural disaster has taken place and be godly run by kingdom minded people and truly help the people that are there that need help and not be taken advantage of. Um, I think in 2025 it is possible though that we could see riots. So before I talk about the riots, let me just mention one other thing because I have it listed at the very bottom. 401ks, IRAs, Roth IRAs, life insurance, trusts. These are something that, depending on your stage and where you're at in accumulating your wealth during the next several years, you probably want to look into investing in some of these, um, maybe all of these. Getting a trust together right now might not be feasible because you're not in the right stage to do that, but it's something you may want to look into once your wealth has been, at least the seed money has been received, is how to structure your finances so that it's protected, so that it can't be taken away from you, stolen from you, or somebody try to scam you out of it, like in a way where they're trying to sue you for something. Um, and you want to have it protected underneath a trust. So there are a lot of different things that, like in the book that well, then it's going to be a series, really, the book series that I'm writing. I want to talk about all of these things because these are all areas that I've researched, and it's a lot of information, and you can't digest it all at once. It has to be broken up. And there are different stages that you're going to be going through where certain things are going to be applicable and you're going to be needing to move into, but it's not right for the very beginning stages. So I started this year a Roth IRA that allows me to invest in crypto. So that was one thing that I did in 2024, which was really exciting. I did it through I Trust Capital, and I had to do something called a backdoor transfer because I couldn't directly open the Roth IRA because I make above a certain threshold. I think it's like 120,000 a year. There's a certain threshold. If you make more than that, you can't open these directly. But what you can do is open a traditional IRA, and then through the I Trust Capital, you do what's called a backdoor transfer, where once you've deposited the funds and can only deposit up to 7,000, I think 7,500 a year, in already pre-taxed funds. So, I'm an employee, they take taxes out of my paycheck. It's already pre-tax funds, putting that money in, and they transfer it over to a Roth IRA. Um, the Roth IRA, the great thing about that is that the money that grows in that Roth IRA is tax-free money that I can take out in the future. It can grow up to the point of the time where I retire, and then I can start drawing from it tax-free. But up in between that point, I can take loans against it and pay that money and funds back. So, and that's a tax-free event as well. But the great thing that it allows me to do is that I can buy crypto and have it sitting in the account, earning profits and all of that, but I can also set sell limit orders for these cryptos for a certain amount of them anyway. And so when the price points hit, it'll sell the cryptos, and then I can buy other things with the crypto. I can buy it back when it drops. You can trade basically with you're in control of trading within your own Roth IRA, which is like it's a really cool thing. So that's something that I did this year, which I thought was really neat. And there are 401ks that you can do that same exact thing with. Um, life insurance policies. I don't know if to be honest, I don't know if there are any life insurance policies where the companies are invested in crypto. But if you're going to do a life insurance policy, do your research on these. Make sure that the companies where are all of their investments invested in, because a lot of these life insurance policies, like the money that grows in there is all based off of the S&P 500. So they have like a bucket of things that they're invested in. So that can affect how much your funds within that universal life policy or whatever it is can grow and you can borrow against in the future. So there are a lot of different things you can do. If you're financially savvy on your own, you can look into it and research it, or you can talk to a professional, which probably would be better. But again, if you're talking to financial professionals that sell these things, their mindsets are going to be very, very skewed towards a certain way of thinking, and that you may not be able to see all of the other things that could be traps in the future that we're heading into. Um, because the next couple of years, there's a lot of things that are coming up that are going to affect these markets, affect things in a big way. Um, I did want to mention about the possible riots this year because President Trump, for one, just was elected. He's going to be making some big changes and hopefully a lot of good things, a lot of good changes for the future. I think one of the things that he had talked about was stopping entitlement checks or benefit checks for illegals that are currently here within the country, which, let's be honest, I think that's a great decision. But when this happens, when that's officially rolled out and the money stops, I believe there will be violence and there will be riots that are happening by a lot of these people that are here illegally and they've just been living off of our government for, you know, however long they've been here. So keep that in mind. And I think that there may also be other things that are spurred that, like race riots and things that could cause some difficult times ahead. So just be safe, be prayerful. Um, Manuel Johnson had a really great word that he said, and it was he did a live on it, and it was just the other day. And I thought this was really encouraging for 2025 because I know 2025 is going to be a year of incredible increase. But he also mentioned about real estate market in 2025 is about to be shaken in a very good way, to hold on to your real estate, and that it's going to be going up, that we're going to have some good moves, most likely in real estate, that there would be no market crash in 2025, which that's exciting to hear, that the markets are going to be rising. I knew that already. The markets are going to be going up. Um, there will be adjustments in different places. That's what he said. 2025 is the time of the wealth transfer. He specifically said that in his live that he just posted, which was a confirmation to me of what I already knew and had been thinking. So, amen to that. Sometime after the election, there will be a big spike. He said he saw that. He said he saw Bitcoin hitting over 100,000. Um, Something later on happening with Bitcoin where it hit 1 million. He said he saw 1 million, Bitcoin hitting 1 million. Now, I know for some of you that seems like an astronomical amount of money, but I'm telling you, it's not. Because if you consider that of all the money that's in the world financial system right now, less than 7% of that is currently in crypto. So think about that. When people start moving assets from where they currently are in the financial system and they move them over into crypto, the market is just it's going to go up. He said XRP will hit $7 or more. Shiba Inu will go up. It will be stimulated. He did not mention a specific price that he saw. So he did mention Ethereum going up and being stimulated. He mentioned gold and silver going up. He mentioned copper going up and to invest in copper. He did also mention, I thought this was encouraging about war because I know that we've elected a wartime president. Whether Kamala was to be elected in or Trump was going to be elected in, the next 4 years, we were electing a wartime president. I thank God Trump was he was the one that was elected president because I feel like he is going to do the better job, certainly, during this time. And Manuel Johnson spoke about this. He said God is going to push back war, Russia, Ukraine, war on Israel, and he's going to give Trump wisdom on how to do this. So, war against the United States in 2025 will not happen. It doesn't say that war is not going to happen against us in the near future, 2026, 2027, 28, beyond. Um, we don't know yet where it's going to take place, but I think the enemy, they have plans and they want to attack us. Um, so there was just it's just a number of things that he talked about. I would listen to that video. He had a lot of great things that he shared. He talked about open doors for the body of Christ in 2025. So big and small open doors. So this, I believe, is where um, our seed money is going to be blessed, and he's going to open opportunities, doors of opportunities to us in a very, very big way. Um, where I kind of feel we may see the foreign currency revaluation, I think we may see it as a good possibility in September, October, November of 2025. And I say that because after a short period of time after that happens, I believe that's when we're going to see the failure of the dollar. So if the foreign currency doesn't revalue in 2025, I believe it will happen in 2026. Um, I know that Brandon from Last Days, he specifically had a dream about foreign currency reevaluating around the season of the hollyberry, the red little berry that blossoms around uh, late fall, Christmas time frame. And then he saw it followed by the market crash. And he felt like that was in the beginning time of January to April. Now, he thinks that um, revaluating of currency was possibly going to be this year with the market crash happening around January, April of 2025 this year. But I don't think it's this year just because I think with Trump being elected, I think there has been a delay. There has been a pushback. Um, so usually when the Lord does give dreams and visions about things, he and me personally and a lot of prophets, he gives these dreams and visions well in advance. He normally gives them to people years and years and years in advance to give time for people to prepare, right? So I do think that the financial crash, a season that it's likely for, is Q1 of 2026 or by Q1 of 2027. I think it's very possible it can happen in 2027 because I think 2027 is going to be a big year and not in a great way. It's going to be a year of hardship, financially hardship, economic hardship. It's going to be bad. And I don't know if 2027 is bad because of what happened in 2026 or if 2027 is the beginning of the financial crash and what's going to happen in the United States because of that. So that's for the Lord to confirm. I don't know, but this is just me speculating and hypothesizing on where I think that will be. I think if we do see in 2026 the financial crash, the dollar reset, I think we'll see the dollar literally be halved and then possibly another third that will lose in value of the dollar. I think this is going to cause us to change the dollar. We may even get to a point where we're combining our currency with Canada and Mexico and coming up with a unified currency that you can use among all three of these different countries. That's not going to happen in right away. I think that's going to take time for that to happen. But I think we may see a bear market that will happen during the time of the financial crash. We may see markets go to zero. We may see the flash crash that we talked about happening with crypto. Um, and that'll be a time, and I think the body of Christ, the Josephs and the Calebs, they're going to during this time they're going to be the whales of this time. They're going to have the means financially to buy up assets that will have literally dropped to not necessarily zero, but are very, very cheap. And these will be assets that are not only cryptocurrency assets, but also stocks, stocks and businesses, and maybe some businesses that will have to file bankruptcy or have to, go along those lines or go up for sale because of the financial hardship. There will be opportunities for you to buy these businesses and to help them and keep them from fully going under. Um, Sorry, I moved my cursor. Um, so at this point, like I said, with the currency, the fiat currencies are going to be dead when this happens. I did make a video. If you look back on my channel, I have a video that I did. It's probably a couple years ago now. But it has a picture of a graph and it's got like a wave, and the wave is literally made of cash. It's like a wave of cash coming back into the US market. I talk about all the mechanisms of what could cause and what will cause the currency, the US dollar to fail. So if you really want to learn more about it and what's going to happen there, I'd go back and watch that video because I already talked about all this and deep dived into it. So there's really no need to kind of repeat myself there. Um, Land. So I'll say before 2027, if you feel called to owning land, learning how to farm, or have a homestead, I would encourage you to research. His name is Joel Salatin. He's literally dubbed the lunatic farmer. He has many, many books that you can buy on Amazon and things like that, that he's done over the years. And he's just been nominated by President Trump to become the advisor to the USDA. He is all about sustainable farming and healing the land and regenerative food and farming systems. He's a brilliant man. I think that we could learn a lot from him and all of the hard work that he's done over the years. Trump obviously recognizes that because he's having him advise us, the new administration. So if you feel called to that, research this gentleman. That's it. That's some exciting news. And then what else do I want to speak to on this? I definitely think by 2026, um, this is where you're going to need to look into and have either hired a financial advisor or somebody that specializes in tax law and trusts, and you're going to need to set up and protect your wealth. You're going to need to have tax shelters of some kind. and figure out how to utilize your funds in the most efficient way possible, right? Because that's another thing the wealthy do. They're very smart with utilizing their money. They're very smart in either hiring individuals that know tax law, or they're aware of tax law and what tax laws are out there that they can utilize. This is all legal stuff, and that's one thing that um, Trump's has mentioned on many of his campaigns and his debates that he's done is like, hey, if you don't want me to uh, be able to do all these things, you have to change the tax code. Of course, they would never do that because all of these elites benefit from these tax codes. They all use them. They just don't talk about them. So it's just really funny and hypocritical, I think. But you're going to be in that position where you're going to need to utilize these tax codes to save yourself on taxes because you're going to be earning wealth at a much higher tax rate. So yeah. Anyways. Um, 2027, I think, is going to be um, an incredibly hard year financially. I've already mentioned that. Um, I was told, and I think I've already read you, or maybe I didn't read this part. I was told on April 8th, 2024, in my prayer time with the Lord, be silent, be still, know that I am the Lord. Humble yourself and pray, for I am the Lord. Free energy device, make it with magnets. I literally heard that from God. So I've looked into this. And yes, there are people that actually do tutorials on YouTube. I'm not kidding you. And they show you how to make this little energy device out of magnets. Not a joke. They will build it right there in the video and show you how you can light up a light bulb and have free energy. So I don't know what's coming, but there may be situations where you're going to be cut off from the grid, and this could be very well from an EMP attack. You're going to need to have means of energy. So you may be building your own energy devices to use in your home, just FYI. Um, so I would say it would be smart to look into areas like that or hire somebody that's smart and knows how to build stuff like that. And have things where if you need to be off grid, you can be off grid but you still have energy. Kim Clement, he saw 2027, and just from the way that he looked at it, I mean, when he was giving his church service, he was crying, so it didn't seem like it was good. It could have been good crying, but it seemed like it may have been bad crying. So I know that he saw something happening in the year 2027. And then Dana Coverstone, he had a dream in his video that he posted, I believe it's called News Headlines, Sheep and Goats. Um, and a dream of one of the headlines states that like 60% of regional banks will close by 2027. So, in my thinking, the financial crash of the dollar will have to have already happened by then for banks to start closing at that rate. So either the financial crash of the dollar, in my opinion, would happen Q1 of 2026 or Q1 of 2027. And then throughout 2027, that's when we would just see all of these banks closing their doors. Um, so if you have safety deposit boxes with cash, jewelry, anything of value, just so you know, if these banks were to close their doors, if they were to go financially bankrupt, those assets technically belong to them, I believe. I mean, I'd look into that, but I certainly would be very careful what you're leaving in the bank in their safety deposit boxes. Like if you're leaving your gold and your silver in a bank to hold for you and they go under, um, those assets, I believe, belong to them as part of their collateral filing for bankruptcy. Uh, so research it. Don't just take my word for it, but research it for yourself and decide where's the best place for you to store your your assets. And to be honest, by this point, you probably will have the wealth to build your own, maybe even own your own bank. Like, I don't know if many of you have thought about this, but you may be buying businesses that are legitimate banks. You may be buying a bank and having your own bank. And obviously it's being ran by other people that they know how to run banks, but you may own your own bank and have the financial backing that your bank isn't going to go under during this time because you're properly invested in the assets that are going to be sustained through all of this. So just consider and think about that. Um, I think there is going to be a time where precious metals, they're going to go up so high that precious metals will become harder to get. And there's going to be limited stock. Like they're going to be bought up. Stock is going to be bought up by so many individuals that it will be harder to buy and harder to get. Um, I have in 2027 XRP hitting possibly $20, 20 or $25,000. Um, but it's very likely that we could see it higher than that. In my opinion, certainly by 2030, I think XRP could be worth over 100,000. I think where it should be, to be honest, by that time, it should be around 500,000. That's my personal opinion. I have not seen numbers to that, so please don't quote me. But if this is a currency that's literally going to be utilized by nations to send money between nation to nation, the value of that currency has to be much larger to be able to accommodate those funds being transferred with the on-demand liquidity and all of that. So in my opinion, it's just my opinion, if Bitcoin is going to be hitting 1 million, XRP should be worth at least 500,000, if not more, because it's a more valuable asset. I think it's being held back for other reasons. I think I've already spoken about why I think it's being held back in price, but I think that's a God blessing anyway. Um, and then I thought this was funny. I just listed this up here because um, it was on an episode of The Simpsons, and I I find that fascinating how The Simpsons has predicted a lot of events years and years into the future. So I don't know if this is a Project Bluebeam, Looking Glass, whatever. But yeah, we may see Ivanka Trump having a run for presidency, maybe in the next presidential election, maybe after that, who knows? But I just threw it up here just for fun because I wanted to get a laugh about it. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But I don't have a lot. I don't know what could be happening over 2028 and 2029, but I do know there's some big heavy stuff that's going to be coming down the line, and we possibly could just be going into recovery and rebuilding and building our Goshen. I think that's kind of where we're headed at. Um, it's going to be a bumpy ride for the next 4 years. 2029, I did want to mention this just because it's a fixed date. Friday the 13th, I know, Friday the 13th, April 13th, 2029, um, is going to be the closest known approach of the comet called Apophis. And in the stats, you can look it up. It says there is a possibility, at least a 2.7% chance probability of this a meteor hitting Earth. That's a really big number when you think about percents, right? Which means it's going to be incredibly close. Um, and the name of this comet, for one, has incredible significance, and I'll talk to you a little bit more about that. But the other thing I find interesting about the year 2029 is it's a Shemitah year. If any of you know about Shemitahs and the cycles of Shemitahs, it's certainly worth researching and looking into. But yeah, in September 9th through the 11th, we're going to have a Shemitah year. So that's a year where you go into, it's a year of rest. So consider that as well. I think this is going to be maybe a year that we'll see XRP holders will become custodians. They'll be ones who are literally able to lend their money to nations. So I think that's exciting. Hold on to your XRP, people. It's going to be worth a lot in the future. I do want to talk a little bit about this comet Apophis, and I may be butchering the name, so I apologize. But um, Apophis in the Greek, it's, I believe, Abaddon in the Hebrew, and APAP in Egyptian. So in the mythology for Apap, Egyptian mythology, um, that is a malevolent deity or demon, often depicted as a giant serpent or snake, considered to be the embodiment of chaos, destruction, and darkness. Does that remind you of anyone? I'm just going to say, i.e., Satan. Apophis is immensely powerful force of evil and chaos. Apophis is said to encircle the world, which, like this Midgard uh, mythological creature, which I'm going to butcher his name and forgive me because I have really hard dyslexia sometimes. So reading weird words is difficult for me. So it's called Jormungandr. Jormungandr, I think that's how you pronounce it, of Midgard. It is a serpent of Norse mythology. He was a unfathomably large sea serpent or worm who dwells in the sea, encircling the earth and biting his own tail, which is a representation example of the Ouroboros, and it's very, very similar to Leviathan of the Bible, the Old Testament and New Testament. I think Leviathan's mentioned in Revelation. Um, and I do apologize. I lost my place here. Yeah. So this serpent, it encircles Midgard as well. Um, and it's referred to as the world's serpent. There's only one creature referenced in the Old and New Testament, um, and that is Satan, Lucifer, um, and also, I believe, referred to as the Leviathan. Revelation 9, 1 through 12 talks about the sounding of the fifth trumpet and a star falling from heaven to earth. It also describes the opening of the bottomless pit, and from it smoke and locusts emerge that will torment those who do not have the seal of God on their foreheads on the earth. So I just find it interesting, and I just want to take a minute here, kind of off finances, and talk a little bit about um, Bible prophecy and correlation with what we're going to be see coming up here in the next couple of years. Um, Apophis, this meteor, it will continue to make frequent approaches to the Earth beyond 2029. So if it doesn't hit us in 2029, it's going to be, the models have predicted it's going to make a couple of at least three other near close encounters to Earth. It's going to happen in 2051, 2066, and 2080. And I believe it's very likely that this meteor, Apophis, could be the star that falls to Earth with the key to the bottomless the bottomless pit is talked about in Revelation. I know in the Bible it talks about this star is actually an angel. It's a spiritual angel that has it's been given the key, right, to open up the pit and open things out of it. And I think this meteor is going to be the physical representation of that falling, that angel that's going to fall to the earth and be given permission to open up the pit. So timing on that is going to be very, very, very interesting. Um, yeah. And then I did want to mention this. This is just something I put together. I've been looking at for probably a couple years now because it fascinates me. Um, the Bible is very clear and it talks about a lot of, it uses the sun, moon, and stars to talk a lot about timing and things that are going to happen in the Bible. And a lot of the seals being opened, the trumpets being sounded, and the bowls judgments all happen around celestial events. And they use these celestial events, I think, to kind of illustrate what's going to be going on in the heavens and in the stars during those times. So what I find very interesting is this super tetrad, which is a very rare instance. It's a series of 8 full eclipses in a row, partials or penumbrials, I think that's how you call it. And it's over a period of about 18 months, and it includes 4 blood moons. blood moons are very important because it talks about blood moons in the Bible. So 2043 to 2044, uh, I'm just hypothesizing this could possibly be around the time, in my opinion, Jesus returns. Uh, I don't know if this could be around the time of Jesus returning for the bride of Christ, and then there's the rapture, and the 7-year period is happening around somewhere around this time, or if this is the time he returns to set up his kingdom on the earth. So it's after the wedding feast, the 7-year wedding feast, or whatever that happens in after the tribulation. Anyways, I find that all very interesting. The the next time we see another super tetrad exactly like this, that's going to have 4 blood moons, 8 eclipses over an 18-month period, the next time that that is actually going to happen is year 3707 and 3708. And I've only, in my research, I've only been able to find these 2 dates that the super tetrad has actually taken place. I haven't been able to find any other time that this exact celestial occurrence has happened in the past. I could be wrong. It may have happened in the past, but I just don't know when. And if anyone has any research on this, I would love to know, when was the last time we had a super tetrad for one? Did it occur around the time of Jesus? Did it occur around the time of Moses, or I don't know, the flood? Like, it would be really great to know when in our history we've ever experienced a super tetrad, because I can only find these 2 dates for this exact celestial occurrence. And so I'm thinking, could it be that the second super tetrad could be around the time when the millennial reign of Christ has already happened? Satan has already been released for a short time to go back into the earth and deceive the nations. And then God has his final judgment where Satan and all of the wicked are thrown into the lake of fire, like the final judgment, so to speak, because that's about a 1700-year period difference. So, considering the millennial reign of Christ is 1,000 years, right? That would put us around 3043. 700 years would be a short period of time, to be honest, in thinking in the last, 7,000 years of Earth's history. 700 years is a really small period of time for Satan to be let out again to see if he can deceive the nations. And the Bible said he does. He is successful at deceiving some of the nations, and then they all come to attack Israel before the final judgment. So I don't know. This is just me doing research on Bible dates and Bible events, and that's what I came up with. I just wanted to share it. Um, I also find it interesting about um, the fig tree and the rebirth of Israel, which is talked about in Matthew. Um, so on May 14th, 1948, David Ben Gurion, I think is how you say his last name, he was the head of the Jewish agency. He proclaimed the establishment of the state of Israel. And US President Harry Truman actually recognized the new nation on that same day. So we we consider this to be the rebirth of Israel, the fig tree blooming. Um, and it said too, prophecy in the Bible, it talks about, um, I believe it will be that generation of people that are born within that time, from the time that the fig tree blooms, they, or Israel becoming a nation again, they will see Jesus return. So in the Bible, a generation is 120 years, is the number of man. Man shall not live beyond 120 years. So that's what we consider a generation, I believe, biblically. Um, so that would put us at May 13th, 2068. When, if you're looking at it from a numbers perspective, Jesus would need to return for his bride before that date. He can come at any time between now and this date. I think there's been enough prophecy fulfilled that I don't think there's anything else that's holding it back from that. I could be wrong there, but that's just from the research I've done. And I'm still doing research and learning about all this stuff. But um, Apophis, the serpent meteor, um, the returns that it has looping back around to Earth, it's one in 2051 and one in 2066. So I find those two things very interesting. And if it was to happen around 2066, it's likely that the date for the fifth trumpet, um, Satan to be cast down, the bottomless pit to be opened, the locust to be released, would possibly happen around that time frame, and then there would be 5 months of torment that would happen by these locusts before, you know, I think, is it the sixth seal that's opened or anyway? It's a lot of stuff. Reading the book of Revelation, you literally gotta have a decipher code to be able to do it, and you really have to spend some time because it can be very confusing. But there's a blessing. It's the only book of the Bible that comes with a blessing for those who study it and read it. So definitely. So I find that interesting, and I put some dates on here regarding the Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets, the last trump, right? God will return on the last trumpet being blown. So a lot of Bible believers, they think that Jesus' return will correlate with the Feast of Trumpets, the Rosh Hashanah, in some year, whenever that year is. So that's why I have that up here. But I just think it's all very fascinating and interesting. The other thing I find interesting, and I'm constantly looking at dates and kind of trying to match things up and where we might be. The wealth transfer, if 2025 is considered the year of the wealth transfer, and we have our own Red Sea moment, whether that Red Sea moment is in 2025 or in 2026. I kind of feel like the Red Sea moment um, is a very unique thing because it's the time of Moses, right? So the Israelites, they went through a period where Moses had to contend with Pharaoh to let his people go, right? He was there as an ambassador on behalf of the Lord, telling the Pharaoh, let my people go. And the Pharaoh refused. He had to go through 10 plagues before his people were let go and before and it was a lot of hardship that happened during that time. The last plague, the Pharaoh lost his son, his eldest son died, and then he released the Israelites to leave. Before the Israelites left, they plundered Egypt, right? They went knocking on door to doors and took the wealth of Egypt with them. They took the gold, the silver, they took all the resources they need to last them in the wilderness or on their trip to the promised land. Um, but it was at that point after the Israelites had left Egypt that Pharaoh and his armies, the grieving had already happened, and then the anger set in, and then they went after the Israelites. So it was at that point they went after to take back the gold, to take back the wealth that was taken from them, and to kill the Israelites, to be honest. And the Lord had to take them through the Red Sea, had to part the sea, and had to uh, had to get them on the other side and then close the sea behind them, killing Pharaoh's army. I think we're going to see I think we're going to see a similar situation happen because this is the time of the Gentiles, right? So the Jews had their time. They had, what was it, 4,000 years. It was the time of the Hebrews, right? Um, 4,000 years. And now we're in the last 2,000 years, which is the time of the Gentiles. I think we're going to see a very similar thing happen where it's going to be us getting a wealth transfer, us coming out of Egypt, us going to our promised lands, and we're going to have a similar Red Sea moment where um, the wealth of the wicked is going to be taken from them. It's been stored up for the righteous. It's going to be given to the righteous, but the wicked are not going to be happy about this, and they're going to want to come back after their wealth. And we may see a situation where they may come back and try to take back the wealth that they've lost, and there's going to be a Red Sea moment, and that may be in the form of the financial crash. Let's be honest, that's kind of where I see it happening. Is that the financial crash? It's kind of like the Red Sea closing on them, and they're going to be wiped out, like wiped out. Um, in a financial sense. Maybe some of them, I don't know. It may be so distressing for some of them, they may take their own lives, I don't know, but, that's just kinda where I see it, and what I find interesting about the Israelites is they had to wander the desert for 40 years before they could enter the Promised Land, um, before they got to the point where there was an actual battle for them to really take back the land. So, I think in parallels, right? Whatever happened for the Hebrews, the Israelites, also I think is going to happen for the Gentiles. We're going to have our own testing. We're going to have our own similar situation that we could be going through. It may take 40 years for a generation of people to be raised up in a mindset that can take on and move into the kingdom. I think a lot of us right now that yes, we're going to be doing a lot of the hard work. Um, but there are a lot of people that are may not that are it's hard changing and shifting your mindset from a mindset of now, and some, very many are living in a mindset of poverty. It's hard to move from that mindset into the mindset that God needs people to be in, um, to accomplish what he needs to accomplish. And to be honest too, there is a mindset for many where they've been in a very dry season. Like it talks about the dry bones in the Bible and how the dry bones will be made alive again, right? We've been in a very dry season. To be honest, we haven't seen the miracles spoken about in the Bible. Jesus said, "You will perform miracles greater than what I have done here in the latter days." That means that literally in the times that are ahead of us, we are going to see greater miracles than people being risen from the dead. I don't know about you, but people being risen from the dead is a pretty miraculous miracle. And not just dead for a few minutes, dead for a few hours. No, Lazarus was raised on the fourth day. His body was fully in decay mode. His flesh was melting off of him. Like, if anyone has had to experience seeing what a body looks like longer than a day, a week, what have you, it is not a pleasant sight. It is really hard. So imagine raising someone from a dead state like that into being alive, fully healed, functioning, speak and talk, all of that. Um, yeah, it's going to be incredible, and I think we're going to have a group of people on the earth during that time that is going to be operating in that level of miracles, and it's going to be pretty glorious to see. And it may take a number of years to raise up people that can be living in that mindset that that's their daily operating procedure, is they're used to seeing miracles like this done. Like their level of belief isn't the size of a mustard seed. It's the size of a pumpkin seed. It's the size of, you know what I mean? Like their level of faith is so huge that limitations are completely removed off of them, and they're able to operate in a way that we are limited to, I think, to an extent right now. And I think that some of it comes down to the level of belief that we have. I don't know. That's just me personally. So I think it is possible we could see a repeat of this 40-year period um, in in the wilderness, so to speak. Um, I don't know. That's just me personally. I don't know why the Lord would transfer all of this wealth to his people, um, and then come back in a year. Do you know what I'm saying? Like if Jesus was to return in 2029, what would be the point of the wealth transfer and building Goshen? I don't get it. Um, so in my opinion, I think that the wealth transfer is for a purpose and that we're meant to be building something because we're going to be here going through some stuff for a little bit, and we need to prepare things, towns, cities, a whole entire system. He's coming back for a bride that is not only without wrinkle, without spot, but operating in her full authority and occupying the land. I don't see us occupying the land right now. I think I see us sitting on the sidelines, a lot of us just complaining about all the crazy stuff that's going in the world, and then wondering, well, when's Jesus going to get here? It's really late. I've been really wanting to go home for a while, but um, yeah, I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to wait on my rapture rug and wait till he gets here. So I don't really need to worry about this. I don't need to get involved. These are the world's problems. I think we need to move out of that mindset, roll up that rapture rug, put it in the closet. It'll happen when it happens, but we need to get our hands dirty and get involved. We need to be making a difference while we're here. And that is what Jesus is calling us to do. And I think that's why he is entrusting this wealth to a select number of people that are going to make that happen during the time that comes, because we need to bring we need to build things to an extent and fund churches to an extent to be ready to receive the harvest, which is I think is going to be on the level of a billion or more souls. We need to be able to receive that. We need to have people that are at the level of maturity to be able to shepherd that. I don't know that we have enough pastors. Do we have enough pastors on that level that can be doing this? I think a lot of us need to get more into our virtual settings so that we can reach more people on a more mass level. But we do need to have the physical churches because the physical churches are vital, vitally important, and we need to have a gathering place to meet because that's where the miracles happen. And we need to be funding these missionaries. We need to be funding people in the church. We're entering into a time where funding is not going to be a limitation any longer. The funding is going to be there. We need people that are willing to pick up the cross and carry it. So I'm sorry. I think I just went on a little bit of a rant there. Um, and I felt really strongly like the Lord wanted me to speak to this for some reason. So um, I'm just throwing it all together in one video. And again, sorry, I'm like a half an hour over how long I wanted to make this video, and I already wanted to leave on my trip already. So, but I covered everything. I think I've said what I needed to say and what the Lord wanted to speak through me to people. So I just wanted to leave you with this, encourage you. Um, you are doing very well. You are you are the light. You are the salt of the earth. Um, be encouraged. And I do honestly believe that God is opening doors for us. Um, and it's going to be an incredible thing. I had a dream. This is the last thing I'll speak to, and then I'm going to close this down. I had a dream a number of years ago, and I don't have my dream journal with me. Otherwise, I would read it to you. But essentially, in my dream, I was in this new house. I don't recognize the house. It was a new house. But it was a two-story house. I've never lived in a two-story house. And I was standing in the living room and it was beautiful. It was clean. The whole house was clean. My house, the whole house is never clean at any given point. If any of you have children, you know what I'm talking about. Your house is never clean when you have children. So, but this house was clean. There wasn't even dust in this house. Okay. It's like unheard of. It was dark outside. I could see there were many windows, so I could see outside through the curtains. It's very dark outside. For some reason, so I'm standing in the living room. To the left of me is kind of like a hallway. The front door is at the front of this hallway, and then to the side of this hallway is the stairs that go up into the second story of this house. I had no idea about the size of this house or even how many bedrooms it was. These were the only rooms I was given privilege to, but I was ready to go to bed. I was wanting to go upstairs to where my bedroom is and go to bed. So as I was walking from the living room into the hallway, I turned to the door to shut the door. Um, and I start shutting it, and it gets to a certain point, and I can't move this door. It will not shut. It will not budge, and I start to put all of my weight against this door, like, oh, maybe it's stuck on something. And I'm pushing on it as hard as I possibly can push. And it wouldn't move at all. There was something supernatural that was holding this door ajar, just the slightest bit, very small, maybe a couple of inches. And like I'd say no more than like maybe 4 or 5 inches. I couldn't get this door closed any more than that. And then all of a sudden the door swung open and it threw me. It threw me through the air several feet, I would say at least 7 or 8 feet through the air. I landed on the ground and slid across the hardwood floors. Um, and I remember sitting up and just being in shock. The weird thing is it was like I landed on clouds. Like I didn't feel pain. It didn't hurt me. I wasn't afraid. It was just shocking and kind of jarring, like, whoa, what was that? What just happened? And I sit up and I'm looking now through a completely open door into utter darkness outside. Beyond the 6-foot porch that surrounded the front of the house, I couldn't see beyond that. It was so dark. And I heard the Lord say in an audible voice, it was his voice, very strong. Um, the doors I open, no man can close, and the doors I close, no man can open. I think that's the verse. I'm paraphrasing. It's out of Revelation, and I believe it describes one of the churches, one of the 7 churches that John wrote letters to. Um, and I forget which church it is. I have it in my journal, but um, it was an encouraging thing when I looked it up because I knew it was in the Bible, but I couldn't remember where in the Bible that verse was. So when I had that dream several years ago, I immediately opened my Bible and I went searching for it. It's like, where is this? What is it even talking about when he says that? And it was just an encouraging word because that that church was one of the few churches that he wrote his letters to that gave like an accommodation. He says, you're doing better than you thought, something along those lines, and he encouraged them. So at that time, it made me feel good. But I say all that to say this, where we're headed right now in 2025 is we're heading into open doors. And these doors are being opened by God, and no one can close these doors. These are doors that are opened by God. The enemy cannot close these doors. They're his doors. They're divinely opened by him. And there may be some doors that he's shut too, but he's shut them for a reason. Um, and no one's going to be able to open those doors back up. They've been shut. So I encourage you to spend some time in the secret place, be prayerful, pray with him, spend some time in worship, and just listen to what he has to say because he's pouring out his spirit in a big way to people right now. And um, he he's he's just he's going to be making some really big, in my opinion, some really big moves in 2025. And I think we will see Shiba go to $1. So I'm titling this part 2 because I just wanted to add to that what I started in talking on my first video. I do believe this with all my heart. The Lord is going to fund his kingdom, and he is going to do that by putting the wealth of the wicked into the hands of the righteous. And I think one of the things that he's going to use and do that with is with Shiba, and several other crypto coins that I talked about here. I really hope that this has blessed you and blessed you in a huge way. Um, we are seeing a lot of exposure happening right now in many industries, not just the music industry, not just Hollywood. I think we're going to see a lot of exposure in every system, every mountain of influence, okay? Financial, education, our government, judicial, all of that. We are going to see, um, and it's kind of like a spider web. Yeah, P. Diddy may be in the limelight right now for the things that he's done with these parties and what he's been doing for years and years. The one thing that they're not talking about yet, which I pray that they will soon, is the children that were involved in all of this. Um, but remember that the Lord is our avenger. He is the one that the vengeance is the Lord's. He's the one that needs to bring judgment on these things. He's the one that will judge them. He will expose them. And I think that there may be a lot of people that need to step up in the years to come with helping in these areas. And I pray for blessings to be upon these people because they have to have a very special heart and skill set to be able to help these traumatized children and help these people heal and everything that's involved in that. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much. If you listened this long, congratulations. This has been a very long video. So I pray the Lord blesses you immensely, and I'm really excited to see where we go from here. So God bless.